My name is Danny Siegel. I'm the founder and the chairman of Ziv Tzedakah Fund. About 30 years ago, on my 10th trip to Israel, instead of just people giving me $1 or $2, as is an old custom, to give away to tzedakah, I started asking my friends for money, and I found that I had $955 to give away. And clearly you don't just walk into some place or up to somebody and say, here's tzedakah money. What happened is I had to go looking for good people who were doing wonderful things for other people. I already knew who the first person would be. My mother had told me about somebody that I should see. And then during that month I was here, clearly I had a nice, wonderful list. And what happened is when I went home, I gave a report to the people who gave me the money just because I thought that they should get an idea of where their money went. And then to my surprise, people started sending me money back. And then on the next trip I did it again. I had about $1,600 and I had about $2,900 and so forth. And then every summer I would come back until finally, after about 6 years, when I had $12,000, I made an organization which was called Ziv Tzedakah Fund. One of the hardest things when you establish a nonprofit is that you have to explain or pick a name that not everybody else has. So I picked the name Ziv, which always appealed to me, which means radiance, which means light. Because I had met all of these people that seemed to radiate a certain kind of human beauty. Plus the word Ziv also relates to the fact that when you're doing mitzvahs, there's a certain glow to it. What happened was, along the way, it worked out that I created this term called Mitzvah hero, which is a person who is doing good things, but always with the Jewish term mitzvah, because mitzvah means that we have to do things like this for other people. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Then each summer when I would come back working for United Synagogue Youth, I would meet more, and my job was to introduce teenagers from United Synagogue Youth to them. It grew and it grew and it grew, until now there's well over 150 mitzvah heroes that I've met in Israel and in the United States. It started out with like a 2-page report, which we send out annually to people. It's now 40 pages. And this is a story about stories. What happens is that as you listen to the people and you watch them in action, you watch our mitzvah heroes, you realize that they all have a story to tell, and they tell you stories about their mitzvah work that are inspirational, yes, clearly inspirational. But the purpose of being inspired is not to just sit back and say, wow, because that puts people up on a pedestal. It's supposed to then motivate us to want to do things like them. And I think this is a most important point that I have to make, because many people make a mistake. Our purpose is not to be them. Our job is not to be the person who is feeding hundreds of people. Our purpose is not to be the person who is taking care of survivors of terror attacks. Our job is to find what's in us that is like them and use our own talents and energies to be able to do what we do best that is like them, namely to find the best that's in us, use our own stamina, whatever talents we have, adjust it to our own best abilities, and then go out and do it. There's a quote by the educator John Holt, which has really been a key over the last number of years, which is charismatic leaders make us think. Oh, if I could only do that, be like that. True leaders make us think. If they can do it, I can too. Which means that while we certainly can't do as much as many of these people, some of the people have learned from them that they can do even more in their own way to make a difference. Sometimes it's with their effort and their talent, sometimes it's with their money. That's why there are two different mitzvahs in Jewish tradition. Tzedakah relating to your money, and Gemilut Chasadim, your time and your effort. Sometimes it's with a combination of the two. There's an additional lesson to be learned here, by the way, that I've picked up as I've watched things grow. People were giving me $1 or $2 or $5 30 years ago with $955 to start with. Now it's more than $7 million that people have given me to give away. There's no such thing as a small mitzvah. I sometimes ask people, if you'd like to throw in $1 or $2 for such and such a project, I remember a young kid coming up to me and saying, is it okay if I put in a dime? And the answer is yes. If you only knew how many great mitzvahs were done with nickels, dimes, quarters, even if it added up to only $13. I do a lot of lecturing in synagogues and Jewish community centers and schools in the United States and Canada. I'm now in Jerusalem, and this particular video features 8 of our mitzvah heroes here in Israel. We have a tremendous number of them in North America and around the world, which should prove to people that they're very easy to find. I mean, some people say, how do you find these people? Well, I mean, if I started just by asking who's doing good things, who's doing great mitzvahs on behalf of other people, hopefully they will no longer be surprised how easy it is once you start to ask how to find them. They're giants, some of them are medium giants, some of them are just quiet people who just take care of 5 people or 100 people or 23 people, or they just felt that something had to be done. You're actually going to see 2 different kinds of individuals as far as that. Some people responded to a specific situation where they were up against something and they said, I have to do something about this. And there were others who would say, I want to do some good, and even though they didn't have a specific thing, they began, and once they began, they found what they were best at, what their mitzvah forte was, what their strengths were, using their talents at what they're good at, what they like to do, and who their connections were, whom do they know. And if they ask the question, why not, the answer is always, of course, yes, we can go do it. And then friends would join them in their work, and things would grow and grow. And for those people we're involved with, whether mitzvah heroes, it makes no difference whether it grows or grows. It doesn't make any difference if it becomes huge. The fact is that it's all powerful stuff, and the kind of thing that is not removed from us. It's very human. It's something that we can do. Now, there is another point that I think is very important to mention. None of our mitzvah heroes consider themselves mitzvah heroes, but we always refer to them as our teachers. And I found over the years that I've been doing this, strange to me that you will have people, let us say, who when they go off to college or when they go off to a graduate school, or even if they go and they want to learn a particular skill, if they're playing tennis, they go to a specific teacher because that's the best coach or that's the best teacher. But people weren't looking for somebody to teach them how to do tikkun olam better. Tikkun olam is a term that has fascinated me almost as long as the word tzedakah and as the word mitzvah. Tikkun olam means fixing the world. I like it better even than repairing the world. But what I like about it is the verb, litaken, to fix, is the same word you would use that if you broke a dish and you glued it back together, that's fixing. And just as you can fix a dish or fix a broken glass or change a tire or any of those things, you can always use the verb litaken, so too you can fix the whole world.